In this video, we are going to explain how the Fortinet Zero Trust Network Access, or ZTNA, solution works. Next, we'll show how Fortinet implements the ZTNA features built into FortiOS and FortiClient. Lastly, we'll look at how Inline CASB protects SaaS applications. ZTNA provides users with application-specific access. This means that authorized users are granted access to specific applications rather than to all the resources available on the network. The connection is secure and encrypted end-to-end for both corporate network users and remote users. ZTNA performs the following checks to provide authorization: user identity check using multi-factor authentication, device identity check where it verifies that the device is authorized, and the endpoint security posture check, which is a continuous check for security-related device data. ZTNA enhances the user experience because it provides transparent access to applications, which means there are no VPN tunnels to connect to. Also, ZTNA is location independent, meaning that a user may move between the corporate network and the remote site, but they still get the same 24/7 access and workflow. Now let's look at how Fortinet implements ZTNA. Here's an endpoint that needs to connect to an application. Our endpoint can be on Fabric, which means on the corporate network, or off Fabric, which means connecting remotely. In this scenario, the ZTNA connection steps are the same. The endpoint has migrated from SSL VPN, so FortiClient is already installed, and FortiClient is registered to the FortiClient EMS server. FortiClient EMS collects the following information from FortiClient when FortiClient registers to the EMS endpoint telemetry, which includes network details, operating system, device model, application visibility, device security, health, and others. Log-on user information and security posture information, which includes on-Fabric or off-Fabric status, antivirus, software, vulnerability status, and more. Then EMS uses the collected endpoint information to create tags for the endpoint. Examples of the tags can be endpoint health, corporate device check, security policy compliance check, vulnerability status, and more. Along with the EMS tags, FortiClient EMS also issues and signs the client certificate for the FortiClient to FortiClient certificate information, and then synchronizes with the FortiGate. When the endpoint sends a request to access the application, FortiGate performs the following checks. Device check, by verifying that the certificate information on the FortiGate matches the certificate on FortiClient endpoint. User identity check with multi-factor authentication. Endpoint posture check based on the EMS tags. If the endpoint passes these verification steps, FortiGate grants access to the requested application. All of these checks are performed in real time when the device information changes. For example, when a client moves between a corporate network and remote locations, EMS receives these changes from the FortiClient and updates the FortiGate accordingly. Then the FortiGate adjusts access according to the check results. Let's look at how ZTNA can be used as an inline cloud access security broker, or CASB, to protect SaaS applications. When protecting SaaS applications, it can be difficult to dynamically identify the addresses and locations of various SaaS services. With the FortiGuard Inline CASB database introduced in FortiOS 7.2.1, both FortiGate and FortiClient can access this database to determine popular SaaS application addresses. Another challenge is how to control who gets access to what SaaS applications and how much access they should have. A CASB admin can control which SaaS applications are allowed or blocked and how much access is given after doing ZTNA checks, such as device verification, user ID, ZTNA posture check tags, time of the day, and so on. As part of CASB, the ZTNA gateway can also provide granular SaaS application access control. For example, a user may only be allowed to upload content to Dropbox. In this case, if a policy blocks file downloads, then all attempts to download content from the Dropbox by the user will be blocked. For the full inline CASB configuration detail, please refer to the administration guide. In summary, This video provided a brief overview of the Fortinet ZTNA solution, along with inline CASB to protect SaaS applications. It also explained how Fortinet implements secure remote access using ZTNA instead of using dial-up VPN.